after a shooting spree, they always want to take guns away from the people who didn't do it. It's lock and load. And I just wanted to go over some current events and talk about some viewer questions that I had today on gun channels. Uh, so the Brady campaign is going after the Oregon sheriff because he's a pro-gun guy, and it's pretty much been a drumbeat on the Clinton News Network. And what's happening is they want to get off of the email drip drip and the Benghazi drip drip, and I mean Republican House Majority Leader just like dropped bombs on the wrong side when he opened his big mouth. I guess he's not going to be the speaker, or I don't know. It's our idiots or theirs sometimes. But so Hillary was just ranting all day about guns. And, you know, the day that this happened, I suppose I could have just flicked on the mic and started ranting and got 1,000 views or something. But, you know, I think everybody's been there and done that and heard all the same arguments. So it's just that the Brady campaign is, you know, up to it. And, you know, this is all about getting votes. I don't think they're actually going to try and do anything. I talked to a dealer today, and there hasn't been any run on ammo, any run on guns. They're watching inventory. Everybody's over it. So, you know, and I think whatever Obama's planning to do, whatever executive actions, I mean, Hillary can promise executive actions, but, you know, that's easy. It's easy to make promises in a campaign. You know, but the bottom line is, if you know, a couple teenagers a bunch of teenagers are drag racing up and down the street at 90 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone, changing the speed limit to 15 miles an hour ain't going to do much good. So I did want to answer one question. I think Jesse James asked me about an MSC optic, because I've done a couple reviews on it and had a few drive-by trolls on it too. You know, there's a lot of competition from distributors on red dots, and I did post a couple links to EOTech zero drift issues in high and low temperature, and there's a military issued a warning on EOTechs. And you know, I still love my MSC optic. I think people that have them are hanging on to them because I've never seen one on eBay, and people still want to know how to get them. I've never bought anything from the companies overseas that sell the version 2, they say, so I can't vouch for whether they're ethical companies or not. All I can say is call Command Arms if you want one. They are off the books. They're not going to be on the website, and there will be no manufacturer warranty. Mine works great. No drift, multiple reticles, movement, activation features for daytime, for nighttime settings. I love it. Did a couple reviews, and basically through no fault of the optics company, the parent company crashed on the television stock market, and it was a major company, and it basically crashed from like 150 shekels to 5, and it was delisted, and that was that for, you know, the subsidiary companies like MSC Optics. So but everybody goes to buy, you know, the aim points of the EOTechs, you know, in America, because that's what's available. And whether or not there are problems with or issues with them, you know, I would have liked to see the best optic, you know, be available, but that's just my opinion. Everybody has opinions on what's the best red dot, and so I got a lot of trolling. You know, if you're doing it wrong, if you're doing it right, you're going to get a lot of trolls on any, you know, review, especially from competing distributors. But anyway, I'd say do be careful if you're going to try and order overseas. Don't send the money. Use a credit card so you have some protection. But try and get it from Command Arms. The main point of the original uh, like video that got 11,000 views was just explaining what happened to the parent company. But anyway, so with regard to them coming after, basically, this is all something to switch topics and get votes with far as going after the Brady campaign, going after the Oregon sheriff, and it just they never lose an opportunity. It just seems that they want Hillary to win, and this gets her off of all the stuff that was dragging her down. So she just going a rant about guns and double down on guns, and might win her the primaries and lose her the general. But who knows? Wanted a it's just where America is at is that the next president will get to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices at least, because Ginsburg and Breyer are both liberals and they're very old and they're just barely hanging on, so they aren't going to last for too much longer. And so if somebody's going to have to replace them, and if we have a Republican, then it's not like the Republicans aren't idiots too, but I guess it's our idiots or their idiots. And as far as the Speaker of the House replacement guy, when Boehner steps down, him opening his big mouth and saying, "Oh yeah, we put up Benghazi pity committee to kill Clinton," could trash her poll ratings. That was like the dumbest thing anybody could have said. That just well, let's just trash that guy. It's like, it reminds me of that scene in Kelly's Heroes where they get bombed by their own Air Force. Somebody get the number of that plane. Who are you going to file a complaint with? But that idiot. I think in Don Rickles' line, well, that idiot was one of ours. So, I don't think anybody else has issued a Second Amendment paper, but I know that I like to follow all the court cases and stuff. And it's just right now, court has nothing to do with it. It's going to be about politics. And we still got a year to go with this shit till the election, a whole year of just ranting and raving and bitching and moaning. So, it's another thing I wanted to bring up is that the whole thing about what the Brady campaign used in their when they file briefs in the various Second Amendment court cases, they always cite the treaty of the statute of Northampton. And so upon further review, that was Edward Longshank's grandson, Edward III. So Longshanks, Edward the First, you all remember from if you saw Braveheart. So we're talking in a statute from a completely different era that is being, this is so and Edward the Third hung Robert the Bruce's, I think, sister, like, corpse outside the Tower of London, the same place that I actually sent my British UK gun paper to, opposition to their gun laws. So they always cite the statute of Northampton. I just want everybody to know how old that is, 1300 and whatever. I mean, Edward Longshank's grandson, Edward III. So they really have to reach for absolute bullshit to make their legal briefs. And, we're talking about at a time when, people, were beheaded for, stepping in the shadow of royalty or something. Let me take it. Yeah, they've sacked York again. So, uh, I think it's really going to be a long campaign. But I want to reiterate what I said during Edge of the Week chat on on Friday, and which is, everybody was ranting and raving on Stone Guys and on Never Enough Ammo, and I really didn't want to do that because I really like to think about what I say sometimes, although I don't always before I open my mouth. And it's that really, if you want to win, and I haven't figured it out, when you're doing election spots, uh, when we did Proposition 209, which is, it's coming up again before the Supreme Court, it's basically racial set asides and affirmative action and race, set asides in public contracting and uh, uh, college admissions was illegal and but was made illegal by Proposition 209 in California a ways back. And I did all the radio spots for that. And if we would have made radio spots that said affirmative action is bad, well, people have been brainwashed that they don't realize that affirmative action is racial discrimination. And the guy who had the campaign was a black gentleman named Ward Connerly, and he thought racial discrimination is always wrong. But if we would have done all the radio spots that said we're against affirmative action, vote for Prop 209, we wouldn't have won. We would have got our ass kicked. We made radio spots that said racial discrimination is wrong, and we won. So by a large margin, we had everybody in San Francisco voted for that because everybody knows that racial discrimination is wrong. So when you use keywords like affirmative action or assault weapon or any of the code words that the left uses, or just anti-gun people use, I won't even say left. They want to ban assault weapons. They want to ban. I actually heard one person on Fox say high caliber mags, but I guess she doesn't know anything, even though she was on Fox. But, they want to ban high capacity mags. They want to ban assault weapons. They want to ban anything they can possibly ban that a bullet comes out of. And so the trick is to have what you're advertising for. It's not to say we don't want to, we're for assault weapons or we're for high capacity mags. It's whatever. So far, the best I can come up with, and it would be, the Bill of Rights isn't outdated. I'm for the Bill of Rights. Who isn't for the Bill of Rights? And but translating that into exactly the right slogan, I'm not sure. But the Constitution isn't outdated. The Bill of Rights isn't outdated. And again, but if you want to convince, if you just want to sing to the choir, then, do whatever you want, but if you want to make effective political radio ads that win elections, then you have to not use those words. You have to you have to make ads for things that are so obvious that every person will agree with it. Like racial discrimination is wrong. Okay. Everybody agrees with that. Well, almost, but, and, so, but again, if you say the word affirmative action, that just, people have been programmed to think that means God knows what, and it's a good thing. And, so when you use those political words like assault weapon, because there's no such thing as, an assault weapon. There's, and what is a high capacity mag? At one point they were against certain kinds of bullets. I don't know if they're still Black Beauties or whatever. They banned hollow points. I think, are hollow points illegal in San Francisco? Yeah, I don't know. Most everything is illegal in San Francisco. Anyway, so where we're at is, I think we need, especially the gun channels, people that are active in like the Second Amendment, like the gun rights rally in Arizona. Um, the challenge is to come up with radio spots because they're inexpensive, and and that that uh, that and keep that with simple concepts that everyone will support, like the Bill of Rights is good, but so you can think about exactly how you would say it, you know but it was how we won was with radio spots, at the election. And man, I did the radio spots, and Ward Connolly had the money, and Arnold Steinberg wrote them, and I was the audio guy, right? And put them together and threw some music on them, and whatever, did some effects, uh, and the point is that's what won. It was on all, we just, you know, on election day, and a few weeks before, it was just everywhere. And it was a major ad buy. So, um, and when we're dealing with primaries and stuff, and if this is all about just turning out, activating your base for a primary, that's one thing, but when it comes to the general elections, that's something else. So, I think everybody should be thinking of what are the basic concepts that every American will agree with. Like, the Bill of Rights is good, or you can use reverse psychology and say, no, that we don't need the Bill of Rights anymore. I don't want to, I don't want, and you can go through all the Bill of Rights and say why you don't need them and use reverse psychology. But I think the most, the most important thing is to not fall into the trap of those and try and defend those political catchphrases, because when you do that, you lost before you even fired a shot or opened your mouth or said one word or made one spot. you know so it's it's not okay to you know use violence against somebody. It's not okay to rape my daughter. I'm not going to let you rape my daughter. No, I'm going to I'm going to do something to protect her, and I'm going to use a weapon to do it. And it's not okay for you to rob the bank. Somebody's going to stop you. It's not okay to hurt somebody else. you know and that's we all know about what guns are for. It's all about self-defense. It's not about hunting. So it's anyway. So that's pretty much where we're at on that one. uh, there's there's a lot of great gun catchphrases over the years and stuff, for arguments, for like the most famous one, Benjamin Franklin, I think. Those that give up essential liberty for a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety. And somebody had posted one on gun channels, and Thomas Jefferson had said it, but it was originally he was him quoting a criminologist known as Cesare Beccaria or Beccaria. I'm Cesar Beccaria. I probably mispronounced that name. My apologies to his family. But that quote was, laws that forbid the carrying of arms disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than prevent homicides, for an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. But I always like this one. After shooting spree, they always want to take away guns from the people who didn't do it. That just applies. So and of course the Brady bill wants to bash the sheriff now because he's pro Second Amendment, and he threatened to take away. He threatened to arrest any federal agent who came to enforce unconstitutional laws. So that pissed off the Brady campaign to no end, and I think he wrote a letter to Joe Biden, something to that effect. And so let's see. What have I been doing for Glocktober? I bought a case of a federal 1,000 rounds of federal 9mm. It turns out the day before the shooting, but there's like I said, there hasn't been any run on ammo. There hasn't been any run on guns, and I think people are over it. Uh, Today I ordered, I got a discount from a local dealer off of the Ruger price. Got a Crimson, I ordered Crimson Trace laser for, well, it's either going to go on my Ruger LC380 or LC9S Pro. Red laser. Crimson Trace makes good stuff. And I think the people at gun channels convinced me that lasers are good. So that's about the new stuff that's happening here. Heavy B Brian has been working in a bar for Monday Night Football, making some money. And so I don't know if I should switch my day show to Wednesdays instead of Mondays. I like Monday Night Football, although some of the gun channels people don't like sports for some reason that I can't understand. But anyway, that's most of the news that's been fit to print today. And if you haven't registered to vote or you don't think it matters, get out there and register to vote and try and convince as many people to register and vote. I do that even though I live in Hawaii, and it's like fucking hopeless. But you know how it is. The Republican Party sucks. Even here, even the Republican Assembly, which is like the shadow Republican Party, sucks. And it's pretty hopeless. They're almost a counterproductive organization. And I don't know if I don't see too many questions today on the internals and gun channels. So I'm going to do a quick gun channels patch giveaway. And let's see. I've been watching the new series. It's on Tuesdays. So they're called The Bastard Executioner on Fox FX, and it's around the time of Edward II. So it's after Longshanks, but before Edward III and the Statute of Northampton. Yeah. Well, I'm not into name calling there, Sean. So I don't think name calling is effective. I'd prefer to totally disassemble her on. I mean, I know what she's doing. She's what she's doing by talking about guns is she's counteracting the email scandal, and until the FBI actually charges her, or convinces a federal prosecutor to charge her. Good luck with that. She's just switching the topic from emails and Benghazi to gun control, and just so as long as she's ranting, she's off the hook for all that other stuff. And because she's in a primary fight now, so that's why this is up. It's just a crass political calculation that talking about guns will doubling down on guns will get her a nomination. Yes, trashing the Constitution will get her a nomination. That's to the Democratic. I guess that's life in the big city. That's how it works. And I guess she came out on Saturday Night Live against the pipeline. And like that ship that got lost there in the hurricane, to all our friends on the hurricane side of the island, or not on the island. What am I? I'm on the big island of Hawaii. broadcasting around the world. But it's over in Florida and Bahamas and Puerto Rico. They had the ship that was lost at sea, the cargo ship, and uh, it's just it's tragic. A lot of people lost at sea. It wasn't all of us don't live in Texas, so we aren't. Hawaii has its advantages, but wherever you are, there's the Constitution. Now, what was I talking about? Uh, Lost at sea. Oh, right, the Jones Act. Right. So the reason they're taking ships, U.S. ships, to Puerto Rico is because of the Jones Act. Yeah, they confirmed it sunk. And the reason that ship was there is because of the Jones Act. It cost 3 times as much to make a ship in the United States, and more than 3 times as much to man a Union ship. And it's required to ship everything from state to state that's on sea on a U.S. built cargo ship, U.S. crewed, U.S. built cargo ship. So that just completely destroys the state of Hawaii, and I've seen ISIS toilet paper for sale actually with the flag. Somebody's just responding to comments here, but um, uh, yeah. See what you did? You get me to lose my train of thought. The Jones Act. The Jones Act. Yeah. So this act from the 1930s or the like 1929, I think. Maybe it made sense back then, but you know, if it would have been a Chinese ship that was lost at sea instead of an American one, I guess. But I mean, I don't know why they put to sea in the middle of a hurricane and then the motor died, and then wham, they with a dead motor, you're a dead duck in a hurricane. I mean, be a dead duck in a hurricane. I mean, it's a big ship, but it wasn't too big to sink. So people ought to keep that in mind about other things. You know, um, and so pretty much, I'm just taking it easy, not panicking to buy guns, and I'm pretty well loaded for ammo. All I bought this week was a laser, and I guess when it gets here next week, I'll have something to talk about. We can make it. That reminds me of one time I went sailing and with my crazy uncle and friend, and we went from Marina Del Rey when I was in California to Catalina Island, and we're going around the north point of the island, and we had all these gigantically huge winds, and we're tacking from side to side, and we turned off the motor, and the ship is like riding at maximum speed, and the boat's leaning over, the sails pushed down as far as it can go, and then we tack over to the other side, and you hear all the dishes go from one side to the other, and then as soon as you get around the point of the island, all the wind just died. you know it completely died, and so then we tried to turn on the motor, but I guess jostling it back and forth with all that tacking, it completely died. So we couldn't get the Johnson to start at all, and the rocks, the surf was pushing us closer and closer to the rocks, and so this is my crazy uncle. We pulled out the engine, couldn't fix it. There's deck is awash with gasoline. So my uncle, who was a Vietnam vet, started his first instinct was to grab a cigarette and light it. So we did just pulled that right out of his mouth before he could light it. The deck was awash with gasoline. He wants to start smoking. But anyway, so I put in the Johnson. We had to tow in a dinghy, and we put in the 5 millimeter or 5 horsepower Seagull engine from the dinghy into the took out the Johnson and put that in and got it to port at like 2 a.m. or something. Carried the damn thing across the island. Well, the Seagull motor worked great. It was only 5 horsepower, but we got in at 2 in the morning, and tried. It's so funny. We almost crashed into a couple of other boats, and the harbor master is like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" It's like, so my uncle, naturally says blames it on us. Like, "Oh, I have two young children here who don't know what the fuck they're doing," and we're like, "If it wasn't for us, you would have blown up your own boat at the point, you fucking idiot." But he was a Vietnam War vet, and that was, I guess, well, he was messed up from that. So I give him a pass generally, but nevertheless, I actually carried the fucking Johnson all the way across the isthmus, and the next day, and they fixed it. So they said they got it to work again. So I carried it back across the next day, and we headed out, and it worked until right outside. We got outside the harbor, then it died again. So back, we put the Seagull back in, and there was a little wind, so we, in between the wind and the Seagull, we made it back to Marina Del Rey that night at about, again, like 3 in the morning or something like that. And I got to tell you, going in Marina Del Rey, specifically remember it was. What I remember is it was like glass, the water, and you never see Marina Del Rey where the water is just like still like glass, because you could see the reflection of every light. And um, it was just awesome, And but man, so that was in a Catalina 29. Back in the day. So yeah, even I was a teenager once. So hard to believe nowadays. So uh, it's it it life is strange. So I guess when stuff like this happens, you just have to not panic. And I think everybody is pretty much over gun attacks, and then maybe Obama is right in that America is comfortably numb with this shit. But you know, I think that the only thing that makes sense to me that everyone would agree on is that security guards at schools need to be armed. And the problem with the Oregon gun law, to me, was that people could have CCW permits, but uh, uh, the school has a policy. The UCC chain of schools has a policy, or whatever it is, in Oregon. Their policy is that students will be expelled if they carry a gun, and or if anybody reports them for carrying a gun anyway. And uh, employees were prohibited from carrying a gun. And why would you have a security guard that doesn't have a gun? I mean, I think that at this point, if people wouldn't see a security guard for a school with a gun. I mean, if they're not there to, like, arrest people for smoking weed or shit like that, you could walk right by them. They're only there, you know, to protect students from crazy ass shooting spree motherfuckers. You know, I think the guy left some manifesto. His girlfriend bailed on him, or he didn't have one, and he was mad. Nobody liked him. I mean, personally, I remember when I was growing up, I wish, I don't know, does everybody need martial arts when they grow up and learn the basics, where the trick is, oh yeah, I want to learn karate, I want to learn jujitsu, I want to learn kung fu, but really what you're learning, the trick is that they give you that's the candy, but the vegetables that you're eating is that if you do something, it's only for defense, self-defense, you know. It's only for self-defense. And I remember my Tung Sudo teacher said, if I hear you guys ever use any of this stuff on anybody, I'm personally going to kick your ass. I'll come to your house and I'll beat the crap out of you. And he was like, I think he won the martial arts championship for karate 1 or 2 years in a row. So when he said it, it meant something. So but it really, when you take your kids to martial arts school of one type or another, that's the candy, is the martial arts, but the philosophy of that it's only for self-defense, because it's important. And I think, maybe that might be better than football and basketball, but I mean, you don't get paid lots of money for learning that. But I don't know. I think it should be available or something like that, because there's no way to teach religion, in schools and stuff anymore. So but there is, you can teach martial arts, and you can kind of sneak in that philosophy that, you know, um, being a good person is important, and all this stuff that you learn, even just hitting somebody or kicking somebody, is that's only for self-defense. And I don't think they teach that, or anything like that, unless you're lucky enough to, have parents that take you to martial arts, where you will get your dose of castor oil with your candy. So you sold 4 guns today before lunch? Yeah, today Hillary was out there in force today. CNN was all about, gun control all day, but I think people are just numb, and I think Americans aren't dumb, and they've got it. Uh, well, yeah, people are nervous, but that it's not going to be some huge panic. Obama can't do anything. Everybody knows it. And, Hillary can just rant and rave about it. And like I said, this is about changing the subject from Benghazi and the email controversy, her email server, and winning some primaries. Uh, so that's what all this ranting and raving is about. But, keep your guard up. If, I just, as far as just ranting and raving and preaching to the choir, uh, I mean, yeah, you can have everybody ranting and raving on, Stone Guy's chat, and it's, I guess, fun to listen to sometimes. But it's just LeBron James called for more gun control. Well, shit. Did you guys see that new uh that Tesla? I think it's a Tesla. It's like it has like a biohazard defense mode. It's like a Tesla SUV. It doesn't look like an SUV, but it is. And I don't know. It's like $125,000 each, and I don't know if it's electric or whatever. But it has a bio threat defense system button on board. It's like the cars come open, the doors kind of automatically open up like a DeLorean. I don't know if you guys seen that, but it looked awesome. But hey, it just didn't look like it had any. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was the main doors that were gull wing. The main doors. I think it's the Tesla X or something like that. It doesn't look like an SUV, and it didn't look like it had that great ground clearance, but it looked like a city SUV or something like that. But it had a biodefense hazard mode, it's like the first car with a biodefense hazard mode. So I guess the government will be buying some of them, but they aren't making that many of them to start with. But they'll all sell. There's rich people who don't know what to do with money. So anyway. So thanks for listening, guys. I'm gonna close this one out. It's Monday Lock and Load, and yeah, it's been a crazy Glocktober, and I hope everybody has a safe, peaceful Glocktober, goes out and has a great Halloween, and uh, you know, if you don't own a Glock, go buy one, man. Just in case. No, hey, man. Sean, I I just want to get like a couple inches of ground clearance on my Blazer. I want to put in some lift shackles, some like 2-inch lift shackles, and eventually, when I replace these tires, I want to get bigger tires and crank up the torsion bars. A couple inches of extra ground clearance, I'm good. You know, um, uh, and but I don't think they don't make Blazers anymore, unfortunately. But I have an old one, so It's not too old, but anyway. So this has been Hawaii Volcano Squad Lock and Load chat, and thanks everybody. See you next week. It may be on a Wednesday, maybe on a Monday. So everybody, y'all be cool. I'm gone.